Well, as often as shows go, there's always going to be repetition, and it's a constant dance, because when it's saturated with it, it's really the death of the show or series or film series, what have you. And Doctor Who was no different in this. So there was a lot of things. Of course, everybody talks about, the space station in trouble. And sometimes it's a spaceship in trouble, but you get the idea. So there's going to be a lot of repetition here and there. And some of it, most people are fine with, because, well, it's a certain villain or monster, rather, that returns. Of course, the Master always returns here and there. The dialects, of course, are really at the top, so you always expect every version of Doctor Who is going to have to deal with those guys. Well, quite a few times. But the runner-up to them would probably be the Cybermen. Even though they just barely made it in at the tail end of Hartnell's run, but so they fought all the Doctors. Well, they kind of sort of except the third Doctor, even though one of them appeared in a promo with him. But later on, they tangled with him in the 5 Doctors. So that'll have to count. But everybody else, they had to tussle with the Cybermen. The 4th Doctor only once, and same with the 5th, and the same with the So eventually you get your turn, and such was the case with Sylvester McCoy's 7th Doctor in the Silver Nemesis. Now, there's a lot here. My least favorite era of the original series, for a lot of reasons. But this is another one that, in the proper hands, with capable people to I know the complaints has always been, the budget wasn't there and all that. I've seen people do with less and turn out really great yarns. So, but this was another episode filling in for what was supposed to be Andrew Cartmell's, magnum opus on the mystery of Doctor Who, and revealing that he was a significant figure, or at least hinting that he could possibly be a significant figure. But by all means of what was supposed to have happened, you'd pretty much be saying, yeah, that's the deal, more or less, that the Doctor was part of an ancient triumvirate of Time Lords, the other 2 members being Omega and Rassilon. And so the Doctor was the mysterious other. Something about it that they reproduce through looms or something. I forget the whole thing. And he threw himself in it. So technically speaking, I guess the Doctor in a way was sort of a descendant of his former self. I don't know. But it never came to pass, and it's probably just as well. And for the most part, it would probably just ignore that. But they didn't. They did a really even cheaper attempt later on. Yeah. When looking at it overall, it's probably best to just leave it rather only insinuating things. Is it? Huh? That the Doctor has secrets. He's a mysterious character, and he can never truly reveal what the ultimate secret is, or something along those lines. And always, why did he leave? Well, of course, there was the hand of Omega in a previous episode, and now it's this statue, this Silver Nemesis, that the Doctor had dealt with, and then put it into space. It's this comet that everyone sees, and a sorceress from the 1600s knew of this, and I forget. Yeah, it was based on her or something like that. But she casts a spell and travels to the future, where in the 80s, the Silver Nemesis would land, and she wanted to take its power and all that. So it was this powerful Gallifreyan weapon that What was the doctor doing with that? Well, they never really get there. He just sort of, stares knowingly, and Lady Pintfart, the sorceress, she seemed to know the doctor's ultimate secret. And so, of course, you have Ace asking, "Who are you, Doctor?" "Oh, don't trouble yourself. And that's for the audience as well. They weren't really they were just going to tease a bunch of stuff. But here, what was he doing with it? It does suggest that there was some very serious reason as to why the Doctor ultimately left Gallifrey. I mean, there's a lot of different theories, and one could play with it. But after the terrible attempt at answering that in recent Doctor Who, probably for the best to not even bother. Mystery and intrigue and whatnot, how do you maintain it without at least, hinting at this or that? But this is just sort of dumped everywhere. So it's a weapon that just seems a lot of people knew about. This old sorceress who time travels. How many more of those are there, And then, of course, the Cybermen, with the word silver, and they're silvery-looking guys. They want it, too. And, of course, they would. And then, well, some neo-nasties. Yeah, they're... And they're very much believing in the occult beliefs that the nasties certainly believed in and all of this. So they want the weapon, too. And so here we go. And then the Doctor has to prevent all of this. And, and he ultimately uses the weapon to destroy the Cybermen's fleet. So, that's convenient, isn't it? Well, yes. Hey, what other weapons did he have just floating and flying around out there, Oh, yeah, that one. Yeah, I could use that. Well, so, the 80s Cybermen, I think, are probably the best version of the Cybermen, even with, the more superior suits and whatnot they do in current shows and all that. But, boy, there's just something about them, and maybe it's just because of their debut in Earthshock was so impressive. That it sort of stuck with me. The suits are a little different. It looks like they made them a little darker overall, but they're pretty much the same crew. But again, there's elements of it that could have worked, and I think ultimately when you talk about mysteries of the Time Lords and what the Doctor was up to, and why ultimately he was a fugitive rather than just, well, he stole a TARDIS and he interferes, so that was the crime initially. But if he's got these powerful weapons that he's just hiding around that were, created by Omega and Rassilon, it's like, that's some other outstanding charges that might befall him, but then what was it all about and that kind of thing. But I don't think it had to come down to him being revealed to be Dr. God, It could have been that, he knew some secrets and he had to, in his better judgment, deal with it in this manner, that sort of thing. But anyway, it's badly handled here, and it's unfortunate. And also the usual things of just the choreography of conflict and fights, where you have the Cybermen are supposed to be these menacing figures, but they're dispatched rather easily. Certainly by the likes of Ace again and all that, but which fine, you can have that happen, but you gotta navigate that a little better. But it didn't happen. And then of course the gold thing comes into play, and it works. So and all of that, but ultimately, the weapon that everyone wanted, it had to be kept out of the wrong hands. Well, maybe you shouldn't have just had it float around for centuries like that. It's like, the Cyberman, you're stupid. He could have just flown and got it. but anyway, and then he uses it to wipe out a whole fleet. It's like, well, might want to keep track of that. But the overall setup for a greater story they never got the chance to resolve because, the show was canceled or rested for, what was it, 15 years, I think? Yeah. Anyway, so that's the Cybermen episode for the Seventh Doctor, with teases of a larger story that and it didn't really bear fruit. But, well, what are you going to do?